And one of the biggest things, as I mentioned, is we have, in many parts, in the South, we have two separate conferences, regional and state. Can we be a successful church? Can we be the picture that God wants for us and have those two conferences? What are your thoughts on
First of all,
subject?
let me deal with what I think we need to address
going
forward. Number one, we need to get out of denial. I think we're in denial. When I say denial, I'm talking about the church collectively and corporately. I think that we need to get out of denial thinking that everything is fine. Everything is not fine. Clearly, there is a racial divide in the church. And I think we need to seriously look at that. And after we get out of denial and recognize, look, we got a problem, then I believe we need to have some open, honest, frank, transparent discussion. A lot of times, from the local church all the way up to the highest levels of the church, oftentimes, particularly in board meetings and whatnot, we're not transparent. We skirt around issues. There may be meetings before the meetings or meeting after the meetings or meetings during the lunch to decide. But in terms of an open, honest, frank discussion, that's very, very rare in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So when we talk about this issue of race, number one, we need to get out of denial. Number two, we need to have some open, honest, transparent discussion where after the discussion, we're not punitive. I sat on a committee. I guess everyone knows where I pastor, but I sat on a committee, a nominating committee for our church. And so God is blessed. I've had the privilege of sitting on the nominating committee for the General Conference in session, the North American Division in session, the Union session, and a local conference, and of course, as a pastor of the local church. But I was on a nominating committee one time, and names were being recommended. And the truth is, there were certain regional conferences that were part of the group. There were certain state conferences a part of the group. When it got down to personnel and recommending and nominating different persons to go into certain assignments or offices or departmental directors, it came totally down racial lines. Totally. And independent of whether or not who was the most qualified, who would be the best to move the church forward, the voting literally came down to racial lines.
You talk about having an honest discussion. A lot of white people feel like what an honest conversation looks like, they're afraid to engage in that because a lot of them may have questions or ideas that either excite or frustrate. They feel like we're frustrate black individuals, so they kind of hold that back. So do you feel like that?
And I think that's the other way around as well.
Yeah,
that's the flip side of the coin.
No doubt.
Okay.
How do we get past that? Because that's one of the biggest things I've seen. A lot of people are just scared to be called names or be called racist or be called this and that. How do we get past something?
I think that one thing we have to do is consider our source, consider the people we have in the discussion.
Okay.
And in terms of the conversation, we've got to get persons who are well exposed, who
can articulate
and understand the sensitivities and the nuances that surround us.
Okay.
And so therefore they're able to contribute positively to such a discussion. I want to be very clear on this. We often talk about integration. Let's come together. Integration. Let's stop about the segregation. Integration is shared ideas. Integration is shared ideals. Integration is not the less dominant culture merely taking on the persona or the will of the more dominant culture, and all the sake of democracy. Okay, this is what we have. Well, it goes back to that nominating committee room. If you got 10 people part of this and 5 here, well, we outvote you, so you take and accept, what we voted and what is given. That's not integration. Integration is let's talk, let's sit, let's have a discussion, let's pick up this, let's pick up that. It's give and take, and I think that's what we struggle with.